Margaret was 62, but she felt much older than that. Her knees would ache even after the smallest walk to her mailbox, and sometimes, getting out of bed in the morning seemed like lifting a mountain. She had always been an active woman. She loved tending to her garden, walking to the nearby park, and playing with her grandkids, but lately, all those joys were slipping away. Every step felt heavy, and every movement reminded her that time was moving forward, whether she was ready or not. She would often sit near her living room window, watching others walking their dogs or jogging down the street. A sense of envy mixed with sadness filled her heart. Maybe this is just what getting old feels like, she whispered to herself one morning, rubbing her knees gently. But deep inside, she missed her old self, the one who never hesitated to move, dance, or take long walks under the sun. One quiet evening, as she scrolled through her tablet, hoping to find something light-hearted to watch before bed, a video title caught her attention, Over 60. These 5 chair exercises are better than walking, surgeon approved. The thumbnail showed a smiling elderly woman doing light exercises while sitting on a chair. Margaret frowned. Better than walking? She thought. How could sitting down and moving your arms do more than walking? It sounded ridiculous. Yet something about the phrase surgeon approved made her curious. Maybe there was some science behind it, or maybe she just wanted to believe there was still something she could do for her aching body. She clicked the video and began watching. The video opened with a calm, confident doctor explaining how chair exercises could strengthen muscles, increase blood circulation, and help older adults stay fit without the strain of traditional workouts. It's not about doing more, the doctor said gently, it's about doing what's right for your body. Margaret listened carefully as he demonstrated simple movements, lifting the legs, rotating the shoulders, stretching the arms. The exercises looked simple, almost too simple, but the people in the video looked happy and healthy. She paused the video halfway through and looked around her living room. Her eyes fell on a sturdy wooden chair near the dining table. Could it really be that easy? She thought about how much she missed feeling strong and independent, and how tired she was of waiting for her body to magically feel better. The next morning, the sunlight gently filled her kitchen as she brewed her tea. She looked at the same chair again and smiled nervously. Well, she said aloud, it's just me and this chair. Let's see what happens. She placed it in the middle of the room, rolled her shoulders back, and began copying the movements she had seen in the video. At first, her legs felt heavy and her balance uncertain. She even laughed a little at herself for how clumsy she looked. But within a few minutes, something began to change. Her blood started flowing faster, and her body felt lighter. The ache in her knees didn't disappear, but it seemed less intimidating. When she finished the short routine, she sat quietly, her hands resting on her lap, and smiled. It wasn't much, just 10 minutes of simple movement, but it was a start. For the first time in months, she felt hopeful. The chair that once stood quietly in her dining room had suddenly become a symbol of possibility. That evening, she wrote a note to herself and stuck it on the fridge, 10 minutes every morning, no excuses. She didn't know it yet, but that one small decision would soon change her health, her mood, and the way she saw aging forever. Margaret woke up the next morning with a strange sense of excitement. For the first time in a long while, she actually looked forward to moving. The promise she had written on the fridge, 10 minutes every morning, no excuses, stared back at her as she poured her tea. She smiled and whispered, all right, let's do this again. She pulled out the same sturdy wooden chair, set it in front of the window, and started her routine. Her movements were slow, but more confident this time. She lifted her legs, rotated her arms, and did gentle side bends. It wasn't glamorous, and no one was watching, but Margaret felt something new, control. Each movement reminded her that her body still listened when she asked it to. After the first week, she began to notice small but meaningful changes. She could stand up from her chair more easily, and her breathing didn't feel so shallow. Even walking to the kitchen no longer made her knees throb. The stiffness that used to greet her every morning was fading, replaced by a quiet sense of strength. Her daughter, Emily, came to visit one Saturday afternoon. As soon as she walked in, she noticed her mother moving around the house with a lightness she hadn't seen in years. "Mom," Emily said, surprised, "you look amazing. What have you been doing?" Margaret laughed and waved her hand toward the chair. "You won't believe it, just these silly chair exercises I found on YouTube. They say they're better than walking, and you know what? I'm starting to believe it." Emily smiled warmly, a little stunned to see her mother so energized. "Well, whatever it is, keep doing it," she said. "You look like you've got your spark back." Margaret felt proud, not because she had found a secret miracle, but because she had taken control of her own well-being. For the first time in years, she was doing something for herself. Soon, her morning routine became a cherished ritual. She'd open the curtains, play soft instrumental music, and spend 10 minutes moving with purpose. Afterward, she would sip her tea and enjoy the calm that followed. Those few minutes felt sacred, a small window of peace and power in her day. One morning, while checking her messages, she decided to share the chair exercise video in her group chat with a few friends her age. She wrote, "Ladies, you have to try this. My knees haven't hurt all week." The chat soon exploded with replies. Her friends were curious, amused, and inspired. "Are you serious, Margaret?" one wrote. "You're saying it works?" Another added, "If it's good enough for you, I'll try it tomorrow." Within days, they had an unofficial chair challenge going on. Every morning, they'd message each other photos or cheerful emojis after finishing their exercises. They encouraged one another, laughed about their progress, and even competed a little to see who could stay most consistent. It wasn't just about movement anymore, it had become a community of hope. As weeks passed, Margaret found herself not only physically stronger but emotionally lighter. Her anxiety, which had quietly built up with age, seemed to melt away with every stretch and lift. The simple act of moving had given her more than flexibility, it had given her purpose. Each time she sat in that chair now, she felt gratitude. Gratitude for her body, her health, and for the small decision that had started it all. The routine no longer felt like exercise, it felt like a conversation with her own body, a promise that she would never give up on herself again. Little did she know, this newfound strength and confidence were just the beginning. Something even more life-changing awaited her in the months ahead. 3 months had passed since Margaret had started her chair exercise routine, and her life looked completely different. The woman who once struggled to walk across the room now moved with ease and energy. She still used her sturdy wooden chair every morning, but it had become more than just a piece of furniture, it was now a reminder of how determination could turn weakness into strength. When she walked into her doctor's office for her regular checkup, she felt a quiet sense of pride. Her doctor, Dr. Evans, had always encouraged her to stay active, but this time, even he was surprised. As he reviewed her medical reports, a smile spread across his face. "Margaret," he said, "your blood pressure looks perfect, your heart rate is steady, and your joint flexibility has improved. Whatever you're doing, keep it up." Margaret laughed softly. "You might not believe it, doctor, but it's all thanks to chair exercises I found online. I didn't think they'd make much difference, but I feel stronger than ever." Dr. Evans nodded approvingly. "Actually, I do believe you. Many people underestimate low-impact movement, but it can be just as effective, sometimes even better, than traditional workouts for seniors. You found something that works for your body, and that's what matters most." Hearing that made Margaret glow with happiness. For the first time in years, she didn't feel old, she felt capable. She realized that taking care of her health didn't have to mean pushing herself beyond her limits. It was about finding balance, consistency, and joy in movement. When she returned home that afternoon, she brewed herself a cup of herbal tea and sat down in front of her window, watching the golden sunlight fill her living room. The chair stood where it always did, simple, solid, and familiar. But now, when she looked at it, she didn't see it as something to sit on. She saw it as a symbol of her journey. Each morning, she continued her exercises with renewed passion. Sometimes, her daughter joined her through a video call, laughing as they counted their reps together. Other times, her friends from the Chair Challenge group would share pictures of themselves doing the same routine, spreading positivity among one another. The group had grown, people from different towns, even countries, had joined after hearing about it. Margaret had unintentionally started a small movement of her own. Her routine also began to affect other parts of her life. She started sleeping better, her appetite improved, and even her mood lifted. She felt sharper, more alive, and more in control. The aches that once dictated her days now barely existed. Instead, she woke up each morning excited, not for something grand, but for those 10 peaceful minutes she dedicated to her health. One morning, as she finished her stretches and looked at her reflection in the mirror, she saw something she hadn't seen in years: confidence. Not the kind that comes from youth or appearance, but the kind that comes from knowing you've taken your life back into your own hands. She realized that aging didn't have to mean slowing down or giving up. It could mean growing stronger, wiser, and kinder to oneself. The chair exercises had not only restored her physical health but had given her emotional strength too, a reminder that even small actions, done with consistency and heart, could transform a life. As the sun streamed in through the window, Margaret smiled and whispered, "Who knew a simple chair could change everything?" She lifted her cup of tea in a quiet toast to herself, to courage, to health, and to never underestimating what a little hope and daily effort can achieve. That chair had once been just another household item, but now it was her secret weapon, the tool that gave her back her independence, her confidence, and her joy in living.